So, and kind of switching gears to maybe some of those people who you do feel that way. So, you have been very critical on Mike Doyle's professional relationship with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, saying in one of your campaign videos, a vote for Mike Dale is a vote for the Pelosi agenda. And like we mentioned, you are also critical of a Democratic congressman such as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So, if elected, and also if a Pelosi is elected, because she is running for re-election as well, would you be willing to work with her and maybe House Democrats like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to find solutions on issues that will arise in Congress in the upcoming years?
Of course, 100%. So just because you disagree with someone or agree with someone largely, right? There are some people who I like, and yet I disagree with some things. And similarly, there are some people who I don't like, and yet I agree with them on something. We need to be willing to do that. So something I would foresee as being a short list of bipartisan topics: term limits. I think they have to be number one. According to American people, they're an easy slam dunk. Prison and sentencing reform, drug reform. I want to see private prisons become a thing of the past. I want to see non-violent drug offenders go to reform school rather than going to prison. These are things that really shouldn't be partisan topics, right? So these are some things that we can talk about, and I would assume that based on at least what they tout as talking points, people like Nancy Pelosi and AOC would come alongside me on that. My fear is that that they would be part of what might be called the swamp, and simply because I'm on the opposition, they would not want to work with me. But I would, of course, extend that olive branch, because a vote for something that I believe in, prison and sentencing reform, drug reform, term limits, it's welcome. It's absolutely welcome, and it's a vote for the people.
Okay, yeah. So, so I also asked Congressman Doyle this same question. So, do you believe Washington is truly divided? And if you are elected to the 18th Congressional District, in the state of Pennsylvania, how would you ensure the American people that politicians can truly work on both sides together, rather who is elected president?
Yeah. Okay. So I do think Washington's divided, but I think that we're fooling ourselves if we always believe that the R or the D is what causes that division. I think that, going back to the idea of elitists, I think there are elitists on both sides, right? And I think that the line between a Bush and a Clinton is really, if you look at policy, it's pretty nominal. It's almost entirely nominal. I mean, a Bush presidency and a Clinton presidency, and then everyone who trickles down, who you could categorize under them, they're just the figureheads I'm using as examples here, they're pretty similar in that they're both globalist elitists who really don't represent the people, who have gotten us into meaningless foreign wars, and these things are true of both sides. So the division isn't always between partisan, it's really between, I'd say, those who seek to be statesmen and stateswomen, which I would categorize as being part of their communities, representing their communities, staying accountable and in touch with their communities. And so statesmen and stateswomen on one side, and career politicians on the other side. Career politicians who use their power to defend their power, who forget about the people they're meant to represent, who forget about the communities who gave them that power in the first place.
Right, so what would you do to ensure the American people that if you are elected into this district, you will not forget about them?
One of the biggest things is transparent leadership. It's a drum that I've beat since I declared for this office. And that comes down to being in touch. This is something my opponent hasn't done. I go around the streets and I ask people 2 questions. 1, do you know who your congressional rep is? I don't even tell them if it's a guy or a girl. I said, 2, can you name one thing that he or she has done for you or has tried to do? Because one congressional rep can't do it all. So at least a point of passion that, for instance, if I've been around for 4 years and I'm fighting for term limits but I can't get it passed because the others won't support it, it's not my fault, right? I tried. So point of passion that he or she has fought for you. Nobody can answer both of those questions. After 30 years in the same district, everyone should know Mike Doyle. Everyone should know at least one thing that he's been hammering at for years, whether or not he's able to get it passed. So transparency and building that relationship with the citizenry. This comes down to something that on the left, AOC does pretty well. On the right, Dan Crenshaw does pretty well. It's so simple. They use modern technology. They get on Facebook Live or Instagram Live after a vote and they say, hey, here's a bill that's coming down the pike. Here's how it would affect you. Here's why I'm voting the way I'm voting. And they raise these issues, and people love that. If you look at Dan Crenshaw or AOC's live streams, people are in touch with them all the time. Why aren't more people like my opponent doing that? And in a bipartisan way, these are supposed to be local reps on a federal level representing us. They don't stay in touch with us because they don't care. They don't have to because they're career elitists. They've got no term limits to keep them in check. And I really think it's disgusting.